This is the reason why some of your favorite fitness influencers are telling you that they are actually working out less. They're not working out as much as they did in the past, and they're still seeing sustainable results. Once you start to incorporate more of this, that's when it becomes a game changer. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for rocking with me today. We are going to be diving into the topic of NEAT activity. We're going to talk about 1, what is NEAT? 2, the benefits of NEAT, and 3, practical application tips. So let's dive right in. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And in today's video, instead of continuing to say non-activity exercise thermogenesis each and every time, you will hear me use the acronym NEAT. So now that we know what the acronym stands for, what does it actually mean? NEAT refers to energy that you use that's not attributed to your more traditional forms of exercise. Well, traditional exercise is typically classified as moderate to high intensity activities. So that is our sprinting, our strength training, our Pilates, yoga, those types of things. While NEAT activities are typically very low intensity movements. So think of activities such as walking, and I'm not talking about a brisk walk. I'm just leisurely walking around your house, so to speak. Reorganizing your spice rack, doing laundry, tidying up your bedroom or your bathroom, gardening, those types of things. So not necessarily something that you go into with the intention of, I want to get a workout in. It's more so what we do in our day-to-day activities of daily living. So what are the benefits of non-exercise activity thermogenesis? Something that you will hear me say again and again and again on this channel is we were not meant to be sedentary. We are dynamic beings. We are not supposed to be sitting for multiple hours per day. Our bodies are meant to move through life. So we're not meant to sit at a desk for 8 hours or for any extended amount of time. In the work that I do, the type of patients that I see, one of my favorite lines to my patients is, if you do not move it, you lose it. And it's so true. A lot of my patients come from the hospital setting, and so they recognize that just being hospitalized for 5 days, they become so deconditioned and so weak. They haven't incorporated any of their typical normal NEAT activity, and they notice that it takes a toll on their body. So much so that they actually require skilled physical therapy and skilled occupational therapy to get back to their baseline. So I'll say it again. We are not meant to be sedentary beings. We are meant to move, to stretch, to lift things, to push things. That's how our bodies were created and crafted. So when we find ourselves at jobs that require us to sit for extended periods of time, we have to now be mindful of incorporating NEAT activities. Some of the benefits of a NEAT activity are improved circulation, increased metabolism, weight maintenance and weight loss by helping to burn extra calories, enhanced cardiovascular health, so improving how well our hearts are able to perform and do their job, improved glucose metabolism, joint mobility, injury reduction, and the list goes on and on. Essentially leading to improved, better overall health. So I want to spend the bulk of this video talking about tips. I like to give you guys things that are practical, things that you can apply starting today so that we can start to improve and become healthier day in and day out. What are some ways that you can include some of these NEAT activities into your daily routine? When I talk to people about this, it is really about tailoring it to what your specific day-to-day life looks like, because nobody has the same life. If you're someone who works at a desk or someone who just sits for long periods of time in your job, then one of the things that you can ask yourself is, how can I schedule moments and time to actually stand up and just stretch, stand up and take a quick walk? For those of you that are at a desk for long periods of time, there is a term called deskercise, which is like exercise but at a desk. And it includes things like shoulder rolls. Like, it seems so small that you're like, is this really going to make a difference? But I guarantee you that it will. So doing things like shoulder rolls, scheduling time to just sit and do that front and back, doing things like head rolls. They also have seated leg raises. You can do a lot of different things at your desk. And so I typically recommend, even if you just want to start with the bare minimum, one time during your shift, maybe once before your lunch break, once after your lunch break, if that's something that applies to you, setting a timer or something of that nature to say, okay, for 1 minute, 60 seconds, you'll be surprised in what you can do in 60 seconds. So just say for 1 minute, I want to stretch my body, even if I have to stay seated, but it's better if you can stand up and do some type of stretching for 60 seconds. When it comes to short trips, sometimes, so for instance, where I live, there is a drugstore down the street from me. So there's CVS, there's Walgreens, and sometimes I'll opt to just walk to CVS and Walgreens as opposed to getting in my car and driving. Now, depending on what the time frame is like, do I have something urgent that I need? Do I have the flexibility to incorporate that in my schedule? What do I have going on the rest of my day? But typically, if I have the means and the ability to, I will opt to walk to things that are close to me as opposed to getting in my car and driving. So that is something that you can also try to do. Another thing that I personally do, I know some people think that I'm crazy for doing this. I started doing it a couple years ago, probably like 2015, 2016, because I had a new car. I would start parking further back in the parking lot so that people wouldn't accidentally, have carts next to my car or accidentally, ding my car with their car door. So that's how it originally started. And then it just kind of became a habit of mine. I do park farther away when I'm going to the grocery store or going to run errands. I try to park farther away in the parking lot because that little extra, like we're talking about, just the little extra that we can start to incorporate, a little extra walk, a little extra movement to get to where I need to be is really helpful. I personally round at multiple facilities, kind of like a contractor, but I'm not. Whenever I'm at a facility that does have stairs, I make it a point to try to take the stairs going up and coming down. And it's typically nothing stressful. It's typically like a flight of stairs, maybe 2 flights of stairs at the most. But those are the little things that we're talking about today. How can we find little ways to start to increase the amount of movement that we get? If you have children like myself, I try to get as much outdoor time as possible. And I wouldn't even say as much outdoor time as possible, but I try to be mindful to get some form of outdoor time with my son. He is a ball of energy. And so it's not that we're going out to work out or we're not going out to even get a walk in, but just spending time outdoors, kind of playing around with him is another example of neat activity. And then honestly, some of our adulting tasks really are examples of neat activity. So cleaning up the bedroom, you have to straighten sheets and you have to move things. So you're moving your body to do all of these different things. Tidying up the bathroom, cleaning the mirrors, scrubbing the bathtub and your toilet bowls. Those are all really good, neat activities too. So just adulting, if we can become more disciplined with that and staying on top of keeping our homes clean, that's a great way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And lastly, I'm not someone who watches a ton of TV. Typically, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I wouldn't say a lot, but that's where the bulk of my screen time typically goes. And so I started to think about how can I actually start to do something I like to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The more I can do, the more tasks I can complete at any given time. I love to work smarter and not harder, and I love to maximize my time. So if I'm watching something and I feel like I need to move my body, I've been pretty sedentary throughout the day. As I'm watching a YouTube video, as I'm watching TV, I will fold laundry as I'm doing it. I'll stand up and stretch during certain periods. Sometimes I don't, like I said, I don't watch TV very often, but if I do and there are commercials are like a signal for me to, okay, get up and move your body, do something. Even if you're just sitting on the couch and you want to start to stretch and kind of move around, it is about moving our bodies. That's what our bodies are meant to do. So typically people think, okay, this sounds really good. It sounds really easy. Like I'm going to start doing more of this. And honestly, this is the reason that you've seen some influencers say that they used to work out 5 times per week, training back and chest, biceps, all of the different body parts, leg day. And now you're hearing them start to say things like, I only work out 2 to 3 times per week instead of the 5 times per week, and I'm actually getting better results. And typically it's because they're offsetting that with doing more things like walking. They're doing, and it's not like a brisk walk, it's just leisurely strolling. It's just moving their body a bit more. Walking has so many benefits. I love walking. I've said it in videos before. Walking is extremely therapeutic to me. I try to encourage people to get outside and walk. There is a difference between walking 30 minutes on a treadmill versus walking 30 minutes outside. Now, if we don't have any other option and the treadmill is what we have, we're going to work with that, okay? Something is better than nothing. That is something you will also hear me say a lot. Something is better than nothing. Even when conditions are not optimal, getting out and doing something, it does count. I work with people who have poorer health outcomes, who are sicker, and honestly, they get up and they start moving and they do start to feel better, versus some people who psychologically, it's just a lot for them to be sick, to not have the independence that they are used to having. And so they tend to sit. And I've just seen how different it is on the outcomes from people who get up and like work with physical therapy, occupational therapy, and even do things outside of that, versus the people who need a higher level of encouragement to get up and like to move, to even just get out of the bed and sit up, in a chair. Some people, it takes such a lot of effort to do those things. So I'm like, if we can start to ingrain healthier habits into our lives as we're younger, it really does make a difference as we get older, because mentally you're just not used to being sedentary. So I really like to give you guys practical tips, something simple, something short, something sweet that you can do to start taking control of your health, to start being a better advocate for your health and well-being. So now all of this sounds good, but we got to set some goals. Typically, if we're just starting out, if we're someone who lives a very sedentary lifestyle, sometimes 1 or 2 NEAT activities a day is enough. Those of us who are a little bit more active or want to give ourselves a little bit more of a challenge, still with ease, I typically aim to say 3 times per day, start to think outside of the box. So today, all you have to do is sit and look at tomorrow. What does tomorrow look like for me? What do I have on my schedule? And how can I drop in 3 NEAT activities? And you'll always hear me say, give yourself some grace. If tomorrow's a really busy day and you can only incorporate 1 NEAT activity, start there. So if you know you're going to do groceries tomorrow, take my tip and park further in the parking lot. Psychologically, as you start to do these things, you start to get into a flow. I was just talking with a friend yesterday about how sometimes we can all be so in our heads that we're not taking any action because we're thinking about it. We're ruminating over it. But once you actually just take the first step, things start to flow and become easier. Once you start to take steps and start to really prioritize yourself, I do think that there's a shift that starts to happen. I've seen it in myself, and it is so beautiful. I hope that you begin to see it in yourself as well. Another thing that you can do to make sure that you prioritize this, there are fitness watches. So I know there's an Apple Watch. I used to have a Samsung, I think it's called the Samsung Active Watch. I don't really wear it much anymore because a lot of these things are kind of routine for me now. But I know that on those active watches, they have things like movement reminders. But even if you don't want to go out and purchase one, or you just don't want to use that route, there are alternatives. One really good alternative that I recommend to people is to use your cell phone. We have our cell phones with us pretty much everywhere that we go. Even if you don't want to use your cell phone, you can actually use a physical timer, but set some reminders on your phone. We have technology. Let's use it to our advantage. So if you work an 8-hour shift and you work X amount of hours in a day and you want to get into NEAT activities, set a timer to go off at 2 p.m. and at 4 p.m. and say, you know what, for 60 seconds, I am going to stretch. I'm going to move my body. And it can be anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes. All of those little incremental things that we do throughout the day all add up. Another thing that I will say time and time again, and I will shout it from the rooftops, consistency compounds. Nothing goes to waste. It is all building blocks, laying a foundation for a healthier lifestyle. I really, really, really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I thank you for spending time with me today. If you found this information valuable, useful, helpful, don't forget to like. Also, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me as a small YouTuber grow. And last but not least, if you have any questions, for sure, drop them down below. If you have any experience with this, if you have any positive testimonials that you want to drop down below to help encourage people and inspire and motivate them, drop that down below in the comments. You can also find me over on Instagram. I've linked my page here on the screen. Feel free to check out some content over there. And until the next video, take care.